Hello students, now we are going to deal with the topic of mineral nutrition in plants. Plants are autotrophs and certain plants are heterotrophic as well. By autotrophs, I mean to say that those organisms which are able to make their own food. So basically, we are dealing with the nutrition and nutrition of the plants and the various important criteria which are responsible for the growth and development of the plant, and nutrition plays an important role in growth and development of a particular plant. So we are going to study that. When we talk about plants, first thing that we get to know is that they are autotrophs. By autotrophs are those organisms which can synthesize their own food. Okay, for synthesizing their own food they need carbon and they need carbon dioxide, and they convert it into the ultimate source of energy, that is a sugar, glucose. Alright, the plants are able to do this process, and this process is known as photosynthesis, so which enables them to make their own food, and that's why they are categorized as autotrophs. Those organisms which are not able to synthesize their own food, they are known as heterotrophs. Alright. So we have two broad categories. There are certain insectivorous plants which depend on insects for their food requirements, and for that we come across a thing known as mineral uptake. Okay. Soil is an important factor for plant growth because basically it is the reservoir of minerals. So we get to know one thing, that apart from carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. Apart from carbon dioxide and water, there are certain minerals which are required for the metabolism and the growth activities of the plant, and those minerals are taken up by the plant itself, and we are also dependent on plants only for those minerals. So those minerals are taken up by the plant from the soil, and when we study about minerals, we need to know that soil has so many minerals. It would be more than 130. There are how many chemicals in elements basically. We are talking about elements over here, elements in the periodic table. So 120 or 130 elements are present in their ionic forms in the soil. So plant takes up them. But basically there would be certain minerals which would be very much important for the plant growth. So those minerals are known as essential minerals, and they are the part of nutrition. So we study that under mineral nutrition. What we study in mineral nutrition, that there are certain mineral elements which are very much important for the plant growth, and those minerals are known as essential mineral elements. So first thing that we come to know is what are the essential mineral elements out of 120 or 130. Certain writers say that it is 130, certain say 127, certain say 120. Let's take it as 120. Out of the 120 essential mineral elements present in the soil or in the atmosphere, there are only 20 mineral elements which are essential for a plant. Alright, only 20 mineral elements would be essential for plant growth. When I use the term essential, if I say air is essential for surviving, that means the organism will not be able to survive without air. So essentiality itself is essential word itself. From its English meaning you can make it out that when I say that there are 20 mineral elements which are essential, that means that plant cannot do without these particular mineral elements, which are 20 in number. So certain botanists, they studied what is the criteria, what basically makes a mineral element essential for the plant growth. So there are certain criteria. 3 of them are that the plant should be in absolute necessity of the particular mineral. That means the plant cannot do without that particular mineral, which means that the reproductive growth or the otherwise vegetative growth of the plant cannot be completed. It would be incomplete. The plant would die, or it would be sterile if out of these 20, even if single element is missing. That means it is very essential. Alright, the mineral element, if it is missing, there would be certain discrepancy in the plant growth, which could be vegetative or it could be reproductive. So the plant mineral element should be absolutely necessary for the plant. That is the first criteria. Without that particular mineral element, the plant will not show either reproductive growth or vegetative growth, or both of them. It depends on how important that particular element would be. Then it should be non-replaceable. as the point suggests, that the mineral element which is taken into consideration, whatever role it is playing, it cannot be replaced by another element. That means if I am supposedly taking potassium, some other element, let's consider boron comes into scene or molybdenum comes into scene, molybdenum cannot perform the function which potassium has to do. Alright, even if molybdenum is present, it cannot do the function which potassium was performing. So basically the element has to be non-replaceable. That means that particular element would only be able to carry out the activities which it is involved with, otherwise no other element can come and replace it. So basically non-replaceable, the mineral element has to be non-replaceable so that it becomes essential for the plant. And last one is that because everything living condition is defined in terms of metabolism, sum total of catabolic and anabolic activities, the mineral element should be directly involved in metabolic activities. If it is not involved directly in the metabolic activities, it cannot be considered as important, like essential mineral element. You know, certain plants, they take up gold also, they have gold in their composition, so that gold can be replaced. Okay, so it is not an important mineral element, it is not the essential one. It can be replaced by some other ion which would be having 2 positive oxidation state. It can be replaced in metabolic activities, though it is present, but it is of not essential nature. So we get to know how a mineral element would be essential and what makes it non-essential. Now when we talk about essentiality, there are 2 types of compounds that we come across. One would be the nutrients, mineral elements that we are taking. One would be termed as macronutrients, and we are considering these 20 mineral elements basically. These 20 mineral elements, out of these 20, certain would be macro and the remaining one would be micronutrients. As the name suggests, and from our knowledge from English, macro means something in great quantity and micro means something in small quantity. So those nutrients which would be required or which would be present. If I am saying required or present, it means the same thing. They would be required, they would be taken up, and ultimately they would be seen in dry weight. So it is, if it is present in 1 to 10 milligram per gram of dry weight or dry matter, that particular element would be termed as a macronutrient. Alright, I take 1 gram of dry matter, and in that 1 to 10 milligram of that particular mineral element is present, I would classify it under macronutrient. And if it is present in less than or 0.1 milligram, same thing, per gram of dry matter, then it would be classified as a micronutrient. So we get across macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients, you must be knowing all the fertilizers, the urea and whatever we put in the soil, or those who hail from farming background, they must be knowing that NPK fertilizers are being added to the fields. So NPK, nitrogen, potassium and calcium, of course carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, then sulfur and sodium. These are macronutrients which are certainly required in this much quantity. If they are not present in this much quantity, plant growth would be hampered. It would not show proper growth, or there would be certain deficiency symptom which would be shown in these. In the case of deficiency of macronutrients, we get to deal with their role and the deficiency symptoms that are seen if they are not present in their appropriate amount in another class. But for now we need to restrict our knowledge that macronutrients and micronutrients are present. What is the quantity that is required? In terms of micronutrients, we have, strangely, though it should not be present, though its involvement is quite high, Fe2 positive and Fe3 positive, that is iron is there. Then we have molybdenum, then we have chlorine, then we have boron, zinc and lot many. So in total we have 20 mineral elements which would be required in great quantity by the plants, and they would be essential mineral elements. Now we need to know that how do we get to know that whether it is macronutrient, what is the requirement, what are the deficiency symptoms that we come across. For that we have a term that comes into scene, and that is known as hydroponics. Hydroponics is the process of growing a plant in a nutrient solution. Alright, Now when I say this, first thing you need to learn it that it was devised, this particular technique was devised by a very famous botanist, Sir Julius von Sachs. Von Sachs is very famous for his other studies in plant physiology as well. He devised the particular understanding of essentiality of elements and what is their role by the, we can say it, a technique of hydroponics. Now what hydroponics does is, it is the arrangement in which we have nutrient medium with continuous oxygen supply. Bubbling is being done from using a tube. It has been isolated so that no particular contamination takes place, and the nutrient medium is present in which the plants are grown. Now when I say nutrient medium, I mean soil-less culture. You know, when you grow a plant in a soil or in a garden pot, that is having soil content and you don't know what nutrients are present and what are absent. If you have a nutrient solution of your own, you can just remove one nutrient from over there and get to know its deficiency symptoms. Alright, so we have a container sort of situation. We don't have soil, so soil-less culture. Hydroponics is soil-less culture where the plant has to be grown not in soil but a nutrient medium which will have all the nutrients except the one which is to be studied. Alright, if I have to see the deficiency symptoms of, supposedly I have to see the deficiency symptoms of potassium. So I'll take a nutrient medium with all the 20 mineral elements, but one thing I'll make sure that potassium is not present over there. So whatever deficiency symptoms, pardon me, would be seen in the plant, that would be because of potassium. So I get to know what is the role of the potassium from the deficiency symptoms, and that is possible using hydroponics, that is growing the plant in nutrient medium, not growing it in the soil and keeping it devoid of the mineral element of which whose characteristic you basically want to study. So we get to know the criteria for essentiality of a mineral element, how many mineral elements make it to being essential, and what is the basic technology, or not technology, what is the basic technique basically to understand which mineral element is having what role.